in terms of what do we lose in terms of being able to manage the environment that we're in from a proper point of view, we're no smarter than civilizations were. And it doesn't matter if you start with the Mayans or the Mesopotamia or Egyptian. We look at the Roman Empire. We look at all these civilizations prior to us. And it doesn't matter what part of the world we're in. They all kind of disappeared. And if you look at a lot of the actual, what I'll call demographies and the growth, population grew tremendously. And it doesn't matter whether you were the Incas, the Aztecs, the Mayans in the Americas, or you were some of the certain parts of the Asian population in China, or whether it was in the Middle East or it was in Africa. We had these successful populations that grew, and they grew because they adopted technology that allowed them to get enough food to let this whole population grow. But then they've, in one way or another, they developed some absolutely phenomenal ways of using water. And whether it was irrigation or whether it was other forms of growing the food, they did this. But all of those civilizations collapsed when the stewardship of the land essentially got outweighed by the size of the population and the approach that they took. And that's always been something that, from my travels around the world, was of interest. And here in North America, we've been very fortunate because we started like 300 years ago with the biggest bread basket in the world. And I'm being a little bit categorized here, but and if I talk from the Gulf Coast to Alberta and Saskatchewan, that whole bread basket. And all of a sudden, we were a wide open frontier. And people that were oppressed from different parts of the world, didn't have opportunity, were able to come to North America and to succeed. And they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams in many, many ways. And as a result, success over, say, the last 50 years here in North America, success has moved into what I call the super successful area. And we've become a society that is looking for things, and we're conspicuous consumption. And when you become too far overboard on conspicuous consumption, you forget about everything that is required to maintain a successful society. And that, to my way of thinking, is how you are stewards of the land. The land can be like we have here in the foothills. It can be like out on the plains in southern Alberta, or it can be like the old glacial lakes at Red Deer and Edmonton, which have huge potential. And it's the greatest carbon store and the greatest store of food for the future that we have. We're mining the biomass from millions of years ago in our oil and gas reserves that are there, or in our oil sands. Well, how do we be involved with that so that we're not always taking? How do we give some of that back? And that's one of the things that worries me. And what in our Canadian society, in our Alberta society, we've got a big influx of people that come here that don't realize that my ancestors, my grandfather and my father and all those generations and your generations have had tough times. And there wasn't money. There were droughts in the 30s. Well, the drought that we had in the 90s and 2000 was just as bad as we had in the 30s. But we'd adopted technology with minimal till that allowed us to grow food successfully and to essentially maintain and to manage the water that we have. And I guess when I hear people come from elsewhere and say, oh, your glaciers are disappearing and your water resources are going to run out and you've got to do this, and the next thing, I'd like to have them come out here and get some mud on their boots. And I'm a firm believer that until you've walked in somebody else's shoes, you don't have a lot of room to criticize them, because the situation is more complex, always more complex. And the people that are providing at the present time are providing us with the cheapest food ever, the safest food ever of any place in the world, and also providing us with the stewardship of the land that we have here in Western Canada is absolutely astounding to me, and it's not recognized elsewhere. And I have many friends that are in the environmental group, and I always say, come with me, because I want you to have to make the decisions, and I want you to see what really goes on, not from what you read in a textbook or listened to a lecture by somebody that has a big name. I want you to come here and have a look at how you manage. How do you handle water? How do you handle the biota? How do you prevent water erosion? How do you prevent wind erosion? How do you store water? Everything I do here is a water management program.